Good morning. Donald Trump has deployed another 2,000 National Guard to Los Angeles, as well as 700 members of the Marine Corps. In doing so, he is breaking the law, as well as breaking with U.S. tradition, both of which do not allow a president to federalize the National Guard, which is supposed to be operated by the governor of each state, and to do this without the permission of that governor. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds right away because we need to focus right now on the message, the inaccurate messaging that is going out there on Fox News and elsewhere through the mouthpieces of the Trump administration, claiming, on the one hand, that this is out of control and that they needed to send in the National Guard and Marines to stop Los Angeles from burning. On the one hand, on the other hand, Donald Trump saying, oh, it's no big deal. It's not even an insurrection. So which is it? Bottom line, Donald Trump wants to see troops in the streets across America whenever he wants to put them there. And part of what is happening right now in Los Angeles is an experiment. It is beginning to normalize the conditions of autocracy. That is what is happening. And you all know I detest violence. I don't want cars burning. I don't want people throwing things at the police. Period. I don't want that. And that can be handled with local law enforcement, as had been done by Gavin Newsom previously. Secondly, you also know that I believe our immigration policy and laws in the United States are unfair, both on the books and as enforced. And I also am fully against violent criminals and think that they should be given the process that our Constitution provides them, and ideally evidence brought against them so that they can be convicted and ultimately deported if they are not U.S. citizens. I'm kind of a law and order kind of gal. I want to make absolutely clear here that if you are in this country without documentation, for example, that is a civil offense, not a criminal one. It's not a crime. And that is why when a friend of yours or a family member of yours, or maybe you are out in the community and ICE comes up to you with a civil warrant, that is why you aren't supposed to have to follow these warrants. This is why ICE is getting brutal and violent and pulling people apart from literally their babies. They're using force that they're not entitled to use and that they said they wouldn't use. And they're doing it because Donald Trump gave them explicit, not just permission, but orders to do so. Last week, I think it was around Thursday, the sadistic architect of Donald Trump's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, didn't like the numbers of people who were being rounded up and deported. And let's be clear, the numbers are low. Barack Obama, who was president, you might remember, between 2008, president from 2009 through 2017, Barack Obama enforced the immigration laws and did so in a way that maybe some disagree with because they think they shouldn't have been enforced, but he did so in such a way that did not have this kind of volatility. He went after hardened criminals. He went after people who were first coming over the border, and he used his authority that way. Donald Trump's administration is incompetent. And the thing is, when people are incompetent, when they cannot do what they promised, which they said was to get criminals off the streets and out of our country, what they're doing is they are going after ordinary people, because ordinary people, for example, who are documented here, who are on green cards or student visas or have been showing up at their immigration appointments annually, who are married to U.S. citizens but have not yet been naturalized. People like that are law-abiding, hardworking people in their community and family members. And by the way, hardworking, I mean in the home as well as outside of the home. And when they are rounded up, they get thrown in violently as if they deserve inhumane treatment, but they're easy to capture. So Stephen Miller, he's frustrated. Donald Trump said, go ahead and just round them up. And this is why people in the streets of Los Angeles are so upset. It all got triggered after that Thursday meeting, last Thursday. On Friday, what happened? And I just need to, this is like the bottom line here, what I had read in the reporting. Stephen Miller at that meeting wanted the quota to go up. Donald Trump did too. So Stephen Miller's idea was this. He's like, I see all these illegals. I hate using that term, but that's what he was saying. I see all these illegals doing things like sitting outside of or standing outside of the Home Depot because they're offering their work as day laborers. So if you've gone into Home Depot to buy some lumber or some other things, let's say, and you yourself are not handy, or you need lots of people to work for you, apparently the practice is you might hire someone for the day, a day laborer, pay them off the books. I'm not saying I did this. I'm saying people do. And a lot of the people who do that are undocumented. And so Stephen Miller knows of this practice, and he said, go there and round people up. Stephen Miller also knows of the practice in Los Angeles of the garment center. We talked about that yesterday, that clothes that are manufactured in the United States, right here on shore, are manufactured in Los Angeles. And a lot of the people who work in the garment centers are either undocumented or they're immigrants who are documented but do not have citizenship yet. They're waiting for it, and the wait is forever. Okay. So the idea was to round people up at their work at the garment center, arrest people outside of Home Depot. This is brutal, and people are resisting because by resisting, I mean standing around. We saw people shouting, ICE, go away, get out, get out. We saw that last week. It's because we know what the Gestapo looks like. We know, we're old enough to know the stories, to have seen the movies. We do not want ICE, which is the American Gestapo, which has become Donald Trump's militia, breaking the law, breaking up families. So he is, on the one hand, trying to meet a quota. On the other hand, he is trying to create a violent confrontation that justifies the bringing in of troops. And he got what he wanted, except for one thing. Gavin Newsom, the governor of New York, brought a lawsuit against Donald Trump, saying that the deployment of the National Guard violates federal law and the U.S. Constitution. And they're asking for a temporary restraining order. That is yesterday. And now today, they're going to do the same thing about the Marines. Okay, so I just gave you the background, guys. What we need to do is two things. I'm going to show you some clips so you can be updated on what is going on. And then we're going to take a peek into Crazy Town itself. Because what is going on Fox News? What are people hearing who tune into that station? How are they being brainwashed about what is going on? Join me. We can do it. Trust me. Trust me. There will not be a quiz. So let's start. Let's start first with the pure evil activity that people like Kristi Noem, the director of Homeland Security, is saying is perfectly fine with her. And let me give you a warning if this is going to be too much. Actually, let me show you Kristi Noem first. Let me show you her first, lies first, and I'll show you what the reality is. Let's play that.
Out of this country. And in LA, what we have been going after is the worst of the worst. They're murderers. They're people who have been perpetuating assault and trafficking human beings and drugs and been devastating these communities for years. And they are so anxious to see people be able to raise their families in a safe state again and make California a fantastic place to be and to have a future. But that is not what happens under the leadership of Gavin Newsom. And so So right now, our ICE agents are there. They're doing their work. They're following through on exactly what President Trump said that he would do. And they're doing it with the backup of the National Guard.
I just detest her voice, the way in which she speaks as with contempt. "Oh, this is what they're doing," and she's lying through her teeth. And I don't know what it feels like not to have a soul, but I want to show you what is actually going on. This is a video, I think, from yesterday. I believe it's out Los Angeles. Let's go. That was New York. And that was a New York police facilitating that. So that is watching a mother, apparently, young girl, teenager, or mother in her 20s being pulled away from a baby and being arrested. That is not what we want here in America. And let me also add, the hatred toward the entire city of Los Angeles, which is one of the, I think it's the second largest city in the country. I think the state of California, if I know the numbers right, has more than, I think close to or more than 10% of the population. And part of what is going on here is Donald Trump sees Gavin Newsom as a threat. He always has. And this is his way of trying to diminish Gavin Newsom. Now, let me tell you the population. Yeah, the population of California is like 39 million, which is close to 10% of the United States. So what do they have to say about Los Angeles, the entire city, and implicitly California as well? It's unbelievable.
Forcing these kind of activities has allowed her city to be completely devastated with crime. And now
so she's talking about Karen Bass, and this is a big lie.
She's holding press conferences talking about the fact that people have the right to peacefully protest and that they're a city of immigrants. Well, they're not a city of immigrants. They're a city of criminals because she has protected them for so many years. And so we're coming in and doing what the president has said that he's going to do, and he's going to allow people to live in a safe community again. And we're going to use the authority that he has as president of the United States to conduct these operations. And the more that people conduct violence against law enforcement officers, boy, we're going to hit them back, and we're going to hit them back harder than.
Okay. To suggest that Los Angeles is a city of criminals tells you what you need to know. This is autocracy. It's a dictatorship. It's authoritarianism. It's disgusting. It's racism. And I think you need a cleanser, a mental cleanser, because Kristi Noem, her attitude and her communication is as plastic as the surgery that she has had. And I am not against cosmetic surgery. I'm against turning yourself into a robot physically and mentally for the pleasure of men like Donald Trump. Now, let's listen, though, to someone who deserves our commendation and our respect, and that is Maxine Waters. Maxine was out there talking to ICE yesterday. She is Congresswoman, long-serving Congresswoman from California, sometimes fondly referred to as Auntie Maxine. I have a special place in my heart for her because she showed up at Tax March as one of the people showed up. She spoke at Tax March back in March of 2017. And before the event, took some photos with my kids. And they are some of my favorite images ever. Here we go. Let's play Auntie Maxine.
I don't know why you're in my city. You did, the governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us. This is wrong, and I hope that none of you will use those guns to shoot anybody. There's no reason to shoot anybody. Don't allow them to make your service in a service where you're killing people. Don't do it. Defy them. Don't shoot those guns for anything.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So she's speaking, I think it was to National Guard and to ICE, but yeah, don't shoot people. I don't know why you're here. Gavin Newsom didn't give the president the authority for this, but God bless her for doing this. Now, let me just say that, and by the way, I was thinking, so if she made clear that she was speaking to the National Guard, I was just not focused at that moment, just like yesterday. Just a little correction. When I talked about how wonderful Vladimir Zelensky was for being on the streets right after Russia attacked Ukraine, and I meant to say he was on the streets of Kyiv, and I said he was in the streets of Prague because I had the wrong Eastern European city in my mind, definitely Kyiv. And what is going now there is Donald Trump's puppet master is bombing the hell out of Kyiv right now. And it's disgusting that the United States has capitulated to Putin. We could have stopped this if we had held firm, but Donald Trump is not just stupid, but he is craven. And let me just say, we all knew this. And one thing that's very frustrating is when you talk about what's going on Blue Sky or apparently on Twitter, and people say, "Are you surprised?" And it's like, I saw a friend of mine say that on Facebook, old friend of mine. I'm like, it's almost as if you say you're reporting and you're saying this is awful. And it's kind of like a smug attitude. Well, are you surprised? I fucking knew that was going to happen. And it's like, that is not the appropriate response. I mean, you do you. The reason why we're saying this is to let people know that it's not normal. If you just say, well, you're surprised, it's almost as if you're giving permission because we were told that's what he was going to do. I didn't vote for him. He did not get a majority of the vote of all people who actually voted, even though he got he did. I'm kind of getting this wrong. He did not win a majority, even though he won the election. Okay, because there's some third-party voters, etc. What the numbers come down to is he won by a slim margin. And nevertheless, the vast majority of people in America did not want him because a lot of people did not actually vote. But nevertheless, the problem here is we were warned, and there were people who were convinced that Harris was, just as bad for a variety of reasons they claimed. But let me just show you. She did warn us. I want you to hear this. And when she spoke about this, when she said that Donald Trump would use the military against his enemies, against the American people, we had reporters saying she was making shit up. Because here's the problem. When women speak the truth, just flat out say, the guy says he's going to do X, Y, or Z. And people, he's not going to do that. I'll never forget when he was first running. Another dear friend of mine said, I read this really impressive piece about how, we really should take that his followers take him, don't take him literally. They take him seriously, but we take him literally. We take him seriously, we take him literally, but not seriously. Whatever the fuck, right? No. When someone says they're going to do something pretty bad, and they actually did it, and then we reelect him, and he says he's going to ramp it up, we should have believed him. So here's Harris.
Now, Donald Trump is telling us how he intends to use power if he is elected again. He has stated that one of the biggest threats America faces is, quote, the enemy from within. The enemy from within. but know where that language harkens back to. Understand, and let us be clear about what he is saying. He considers any American who doesn't support him or bend to his will to be an enemy to our country. And further, he says that as commander-in-chief, he would use our military to go after them. Honestly, let that sink in.
Let that sink in. Hillary warned us. Kamala warned us. We warned everybody, but nah, people couldn't get out and vote. Let me tell you those numbers, because I was right on that. In terms of the popular vote, Donald Trump got 49.81%, and Harris got 48.34%. He did not win a majority. So that was around 77 million voters he got, and she got around 75 million. Okay. So he does not have a mandate, as if that really matters, because he also doesn't have the law on his side. But what we have on our side is things are going okay in Los Angeles. This is a small little part of LA. And overnight, things were pretty calm. Yes, there are people in the crowd itching for a fight who want anarchy. And yes, there is a danger of things getting out of control, but they seem pretty well controlled. And we did not need the troops initially. We do not need 2,000 more members of the National Guard, and we certainly don't need the Marines, who, by the way, there was so little planning, they're like sleeping on the floors. So these Marines have, no barracks to go to. They're going to be sleeping in office buildings. And this is where people are joking around, this is a time for Third Amendment scholars. And I'm not sure if you know the Third Amendment or are familiar with it, but let me read that to you. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So yeah, this is a time of peace, unless he claims it isn't. So what that means, quartered in your house, that means where they take over your stuff, where soldiers go, hey, they're in Los Angeles and they come over and they're like, hey, they come over to Burbank or the Hollywood Hills and they're like, nice house you have here. And they come in and they kick, their feet up onto your coffee table and they drink your wine and eat your food and take over the bedrooms and say, you can sleep on the floor at best. That is what quartering would look like. That ain't going to happen. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller haven't thought this through. However, what they have begun to think through, because you got to follow the money, is they want to expand the federal prison population, right? They want new facilities or to commandeer facilities to house people they are rounding up in the United States. And that is money. That is money. And I don't want that blood money. And I want to find out these big corporations who might be getting these contracts, because I want to make sure the mutual funds in which I am invested are not invested in that, or I'm going to have to figure out a way to get out of that. So follow the money. You should not want that blood money. Now, a couple more things. It is, as I mentioned, a contest now between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. And today is Tuesday. Okay? It is Tuesday, June 10th. On June 14th, Donald Trump is finally getting his big parade, one that he wanted since 2017 when he heard about this big parade in Paris on Bastille Day, this big military parade, I think, that he saw. And the deal is, someone should tell Donald Trump what Bastille Day was about. Because Bastille Day, the fact that the French are still celebrating Bastille Day is kind of fabulous when you think about it, because it's a reminder. It's a reminder that equality, liberty, equality, and fraternity are their values not oligarchy. And need I remind you that the French Revolution, which followed our own revolution, was extremely bloody. It was internal rebellion by people who had been oppressed by the elites. And I am not myself a fan of violence or use of things like the guillotine to chop people's heads off. That is not something that I think is wonderful. But we celebrate Bastille Day. We, the French, do. My deceased mother, was born on Bastille Day. That's her birthday. That's why her name was Shelley. Her mother gave her the name Rochelle, something she did not herself like. Not because it was French, but because she wanted something a little spunkier. So she renamed herself. I think, speaking of, dead names, Rochelle was my mother's dead name. She couldn't stand it. And when her mother called her that, it made her cringe inside. So yeah, she became Shelley, named after the poet, spelled like the poet. And that was what she did. But anyway, we celebrate Bastille Day because it was a revolution against the elite, against people who didn't care about their fellow citizens starving and suffering in the streets. So that is kind of what that is. And now there is a military parade on Bastille Day. But again, a military parade on Bastille Day is commemorating the people rising up against an unjust authority. Donald Trump is such an idiot that he doesn't get that his kind of military parade sends the opposite message. It sends a message of idolatry, of grandiosity, of top-down military rule. So yeah, I mean, maybe he gets that, but we need to understand how very different what he is trying to do is. Okay. And I fucking bet that this isn't the first of his June 14th parades. He's going to try to have them all the time because that is what he is about. Now, this is, of course, his big day. And we've talked about how the Pope is having a big international address focused on these kids in Chicago during around the same time or during the day of Donald's parade. And you also know there's at least 1,700, maybe even 1,900 at this point, separate rallies across the country and some across the globe for No King's Day. So this Saturday is No King's Day. And Gavin Newsom is an obstacle to that because he's going into court to say there should not be the National Guard under the statute we talked about yesterday. I can get into the weeds. I don't think we need to on this. You've probably heard it on the news many times. I told you about it yesterday morning, that it needs to be a rebellion or an insurrection, or local police have to not have the ability to put down violence. One of these three things. And even if those are happening, you still need the governor to bless the federalization of the National Guard, sending them in. So let me just say, Newsom said, I didn't authorize that. And you would think, and he also said, this isn't what's going on here. So you'd think Donald Trump would get his story straight. But Donald Trump can't even win against Newsom in the court of public opinion. Let's listen to what he said. And yes, he is this stupid. He was asked yesterday about what was going on in Los Angeles. Was he going to send in the Marines and all this stuff? Let's listen to what he had to say about insurrection.
Briefly, you said yesterday when asked by reporters that it was not insurrection taking place, but then on True Social a bit later, you'd said they were insurrectionists. After what you said,
you're talking about in L.A.?
Yes, sir, in L.A.
I wouldn't call it quite an insurrection, but it could have led to an insurrection. I mean, that was a lot of harm that was going on last night. I watched it very closely, and it was amazing that the job that the National Guard did. And by the way, the police were working very hard also. But, the police are given instructions to be politically correct. I said, no, you don't have to be politically correct. You have to do the job.
Okay. It's not an insurrection, just pretty bad stuff. It was pretty bad stuff. And that's what the job of the police is. Kind of like the pretty bad stuff that was actually an insurrection on January 6th. And what did Donald Trump do about that? He sat on his hands and didn't call in the National Guard, didn't tell people to go home. And then after the convictions happened, more than like 1,500 people, he pardoned them. So I don't believe for a minute that he's against insurrection. I don't believe for a minute that he's against being what he calls politically correct. I think he wants a militia working for him so he can stay in power forever. He's told us this. That's what he wants, guys. And the deal is, though, he keeps undermining himself. In addition, here's what I'm hoping. I am hoping that this gets escalated through the courts and Gavin Newsom wins. Because if Gavin Newsom can win and Donald Trump isn't allowed to send National Guards into cities, it's going to even make his parade worse. And Donald Trump keeps slipping up literally and figuratively. Now, I want to show you this because it makes me feel good to see him stumble. I'm petty. I'm a stumbler too. Big effing deal. But it bothers him because he's all about being a strong man, being physically superior and dominating. He keeps losing in the courts. He's going to keep losing in the courts. He's going to lose in the streets this Saturday. Okay. Now, I want to raise for you one more thing before we deal with a double crazy town. Okay. We've talked about this before, and it's of great concern to me, which is the people who are pretending, who are up impersonating ICE. Of course, this would happen. And this is Donald Trump's fault. So let me share this with you. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try to blow it up. Charlotte Rampell is sharing this on True Social. I'll read it. Philly local TV station reporting that a man allegedly posed as an ICE agent in order to rob a car repair business. How many other criminals might be getting this idea right now, given that actual ICE agents are refusing to show IDs, warrants, and badges? And what you see here is there were detectives at the 15th district because a man was posing as an ICE agent. He walked into this car repair business where a woman originally from the Dominican Republic was working Sunday afternoon. He kept saying he was an immigration officer. He had a badge and a tactical vest. He zip tied this woman's arms behind her back and took all of the cash from this car repair business. It was $1,000. And then every time I tried to turn around to look at his face, he twisted me around roughly, the victim told me, showing the bruises on her arms. Okay, that is what's happening now in America. Oh, thank you, Heather C., for becoming a new member. Now, I got a little crazy town before we go to the double crazy town. So first, before we get to Fox News, before we peek in on that, let's do our real crazy town. Okay. The crazy of Crazy Town is Donald Trump was being asked about sending in the Marines, and he's like, I don't think we'll see if I'm going to do it. And then he actually did after that. But he changed the subject when they were asking him about the Marines to say a very weird thing about high-speed rail because he's against it. But listen up. This has real Lucille Bluth energy. If you're a big fan of Arrested Development, you know the Lucille Bluth character. Let's play this.
State is a mess. And I'd like to get somebody involved in the rail because, personally, it should have never been built because you can fly there for $2. And what are you doing? They're doing that. You could drive. You could do lots of different things. If they did a study. If you gave every passenger the finest limousine service in the history of our world, the most expensive chauffeur-driven white glove limousine service back and forth, we would have saved billions of dollars as opposed to building this monstrosity.
Number one. I want some of that. $2 flights to Los Angeles. I can fly to Los Angeles for $2 from anywhere. Are you kidding me? $2. I can't even buy a cup of coffee in the airport for under $5. I mean, maybe you can get it for $4. But I could fly to Los Angeles for $2. I accept that offer. Also, I'd like to hear more about the study that they did. Someone did a study that if every single person commuting from, I don't know, Northern California to Los Angeles had a white glove limo. I've never been in a white glove limo. I guess that's what he demands. A white glove limo with all the comfortable service. I could have champagne. I could have my fill of Coke Zeros, maybe even finish my cup of coffee on the ride. And you're telling me that every single person who wanted to do that, we already know that California has, around 39 million people. So let's say only like 10% of them, let's say 3.9 million, let's even lower it to like 400,000. You're telling me if I on the fly did a study for people who need to regularly commute from Northern to Southern California, if we all had white glove limo service, you're telling me, and we had that regularly for the rest of our lives as we did a commute, that would cost less than what they paid for high-speed rail? I'm going to tell you, no, but I haven't done the numbers. I'm going to have my kid who likes to do data analytics do that for me. She's in the middle of her physics exams right now, I hope. Hi, Emily. You shouldn't be watching now. Anyhow, that is crazy as F. But there is more crazy town, my friends. Let's do our second helping. Getting it for you guys. Okay, so I am going to share this with you. Okay. Okay, so we're wondering what's going on now on Fox News. Okay, oh boy, turns out they're not even talking. Let's share right now. Over on Fox News, they're not even talking about what's going on in Los Angeles. This is pretty interesting. Do you have this? Okay, I'm going to turn on the volume right here. I'm not hearing it. Oh, maybe it's because there is none at this moment. Yes, we are now watching some Elon Musk rocket. That is what they're showing right now on Fox News. It's not that exciting. Let's I don't even know what to tell you. Earlier in the day, they were talking about what was going on. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this.
And violence that we've been showing on our screen this
Are you seeing
morning.
this now?
It doesn't really lend itself to this narrative that most of the folks out there are peaceful.
Well, they're not peaceful. I mean, you can see it. I see what you see. the American people see what we both see. They see wolves acting like wolves.
Wolves?
And they see sheep, like Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, telling the wolves, please stop it, please stop it. Well, the wolves aren't going to stop. And you see the American taxpayer and the good people of California, they're going, the wolves are taking over. Now, who am I going to call? Gavin Newsom?
Now,
Karen
I
Bass,
want you to know.
Or a Marine?
I want you to know what you were watching. He's talking today, but that was footage from Monday night. And you can see that this is a political ploy to attack Newsom and to attack Bass. I'm not fooled, guys, by the fact that last Friday, just a few days ago, the big war was between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So now they have diverted his attention to having his enemy, not be Elon Musk, but be Gavin Newsom, because they need to back off Elon Musk, because Elon Musk would keep pushing the Epstein files. That's the way it is. And I feel like if you look at this propaganda about what's going on in Los Angeles, it's going to die down, because things are going to be calm between today and Saturday. And this is the moment that everybody needs to make their plans for No King's Day. This is not the time to get afraid. This is the time when we go on the website, and I'm going to show you the link again to No Kings. And I'm pretty sure that Deb is going to show you that link again. And this is where we need to be. We need to be finding a rally. We need to hit those numbers of the population. We need to have 10 million people come out. It's not that hard. This is not your time to sit home, especially if you cannot stand what the Trump administration is doing, but you either sat home during the election or you voted for him or a third party. All of us who voted for Hillary and voted for Harris and knocked on doors and went to rallies and did what we could to stop this man and his ruthless, lawless, kleptocratic, authoritarian, women-hating, racist regime from taking over our country. All of us have more than done our part, but we're still showing up. And I need you to bring a friend. So is there someone, one thing we can do, we can double what we're doing is if you bring 2 people who weren't planning to go, if you tell, I need you to go text 2 friends a link to this and say, are you going? Come with me. If everyone can get all 2 friends and the few people who don't get one, it will be fine. We need to double the expectations for these rallies. This is our chance. If we come out in overwhelming numbers, there will be no hiding it. We need to show up and resist, my friends. This is what we can do. Don't be afraid by the idiocy on Fox News. You can look on CNN or you can look on MSNBC and you can look at Fox News, but look at the dates they're showing you. They're going to show you clips over and over and over again from a few days ago because it's not new. And there's also something to let you know going over around on the internet. They're showing photos from 4 years ago. They're showing things that aren't even present. Yes, I'll admit there are people who aren't being peaceful, who are being violent. Let the local police deal with them. And they should follow the law when dealing with them. But the reality is we must stand up for the America we want, and we must resist fascism. I will see you all bright and early here Wednesday morning. The countdown is on. In America, we don't do kings. Period. End of story.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and day there is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Jen Taub Show.